Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, whatever time it is, wherever you are, whoever you are, welcome once again to Nerd Week Live, the show in which we, the folks at Nerd Caliber, talk about nerd news that has happened since the last show last Tuesday. We have a packed roster of lots of topics to get to, but first we're going to start with the introductions. I'm Rodney Brown, I'm the editor-in-chief of Nerd Caliber, first-person shooter on Facebook as a cosplay photographer, Burley_adopter on Twitter, couple of other places doing a few other things. Joining me tonight, once again in the comfy chair. I got to get one of those one of these days.
Yeah, they're
Byron,
nice.
they do look very nice. Introduce yourself if you would.
Hi guys, I'm Byron McNeil, aka Byron D0 on multiple facets of the internet, contributing writer and content creator for Nerd Caliber. Um, I also do a little bit of art on the side. As mentioned on last night's show, I just released a new episode of Sisterhood, which is my ongoing webtoon series. It's I'm really proud of it. It's going places. It's easy to find. It's two words, Sisterhoods. Please check it out. Leave feedback if you have any. If you have any, I'm always open to it.
Cool, cool. Check it out, folks. Before we get into the first topic of our large roster of topics, quickly, I'm going to put this URL up here to point you to twitch.tv/nerdcaliber. If you watch us on Facebook Live or YouTube, we also stream on Twitch. If you've got a Twitch account, we'd love to have you go there and follow us there as well. And think about watching the show from there or wherever it's most convenient for you. Twitch.tv/nerdcaliber. Now, first topic, and this is kind of a sad one, but that right there is, of course, from the classic 2001: A Space Odyssey. Special photographic effects coordinator Douglas Trumbull, who went on to make the visual effects for Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Star Trek: The Motion Picture, Blade Runner, just so many wonderful, amazing bits of work. He passed away. It was reported today at the age of 79. He died from complications after a 2-year battle with cancer, a brain tumor, and
Oh,
a stroke.
jeez.
According to this, died last night. Douglas Trumbull, directed the movie Silent Runnings in addition to doing all of the special effects. And again, Close Encounters, which is on your screen right now. Blade Runner, that look of the flying cars, that look of the city, that's all Douglas Trumbull. And of course, he also
That's
directed.
amazing.
It is. He also directed Brainstorm, one of my absolute favorite, nobody knows about it movies. Christopher Walken, and it's killing me that I am not going to remember. Natalie Wood, her last role, she died during the making of this movie.
Oh, jeez.
Not related to the movie, of course,
Mm.
if you know any of that story. And that killed Hollywood for him. After that movie, he left and moved about 85 miles that way, out in the Berkshires in western Massachusetts, and
Get out of town.
lived there doing non-Hollywood stuff. But if you've been to almost any visual effects laden experience ride at any of the big theme parks, chances are his studio made it. Made all of the visual effects parts of it. So his biggest one, everybody knows, was the Back to the Future ride. All of the visual effects in that were done by his post-Hollywood studio out there in the Western Mass.
Mm.
Just everything he did looked real. He was one of the masters at making realistic looking science fiction technology and effects, and absolutely colored my view of what movie science fiction should look like, what good movie science fiction should look like from that point on. Including secondarily Star Wars, because John Dykstra, who was a special effects director on Star Wars, was his assistant. And he turned down Star Wars because he was doing Close Encounters at the time, and said, "But hey, my assistant John could do it," and that was Dykstra's launch into absolute fame.
That's a hell of a legacy.
And the thing is, so he won multiple Academy Awards. He won Academy Awards for special effects. He won an Academy Awards, though, also for technical accomplishments. And right up to this day, the last two Ang Lee movies, I can't remember the one before it, but and then after that, Gemini Man, were filmed using a high-speed 4K 120 frame per second system that Douglas Trumbull invented out in his studio.
Wow. Well, I mean, that was the last movie you mentioned was a poor use of his tech, but
well, true. Cool. And I've heard an awful lot of people talk about how the whole idea of this 120 frames per second, it doesn't. It makes everything look too much like a video game. It doesn't portray an awful lot of realism. But be that as it may, this technology exists. There are theaters that can actually project it, and there are directors who are using it.
Is this the same kind of tech that was used in The Mandalorian?
No.
Okay.
He had nothing to do with that. That's a completely different group of people who invented this sort of gigantic LED bowl that they do all the filming in.
Okay.
In this case, Trumbull's 120 frame per second 4K is a filming technique. So it's cameras and the computers to control them to be able to run at these high speeds and super high resolution.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure because it just made it sound like what they've been doing with like the latest Star Wars show stuff.
Yeah.
Which we'll talk about on Thursday.
Which we will talk about on Thursday. Teaser, Thursday's Full Fat Spoiler Chat, Book of Boba Fett. Anyway, so Douglas Trumbull's contribution to science fiction cinema cannot be in any way, shape, or form overstated. And the fact that, for the last 30-ish years, he's been, a Massachusetts resident, like both Byron and I, just sort of adds to that. And it's really a shame that he's no longer with us. His legacy, though, certainly is. Every special effects, the work on The Expanse would not have been able to have been done without Douglas Trumbull and then, his assistant John Dykstra and people like that. So, R.I.P. Mr. Trumbull. And certainly, our condolences to his family. It was his daughter Amy who made the announcement.
Oh, wow.
So. All right, moving on to different news, not necessarily better, but certainly not nearly as bad. This is, of course, from the recent Matrix Resurrections. The news is that Village Roadshow Pictures, which is the studio that made the movie, is suing Warner Brothers, the studio that released the movie, for breach of contract by putting it on HBO Max and in theaters the same day.
Yeah, this is like, here we go again with this. Like, did Warner Brothers just like not decide to not tell the studio about this?
I can't imagine that's the case. Although that would kind of be implied in the term breach of contract. But
the same thing happened with Scarlett Johansson, right?
Correct.
Like they didn't tell her this until closer to the release.
Right. Well, in the case with the Scarlett Johansson, it was that they kept moving the movie forward. They kept pushing the date back. and then eventually got to the point where they said, we've got to get it out there, and it's going to go on, Disney Plus. But in this case, it's the other way around. This was supposed to be released in this year, in 2022, in theaters.
Yeah.
They pulled it forward to get it into December. And according to the complaint here, Village Roadshow is saying, quote, WB's sole purpose in moving the release date of The Matrix Resurrections forward was to create a desperately needed wave of year-end HBO Max premium subscriptions from what it knew would be a blockbuster film, despite knowing full well that it would decimate the film's box office revenue and deprive Village Roadshow of any economic upside that WB and its affiliates would enjoy, especially as compared to a 2022 exclusive theatrical release. So, they're saying, Village Roadshow is saying, basically, you screwed us over by trying to get HBO Max subscriptions by moving it into December from 2022. And of course, Warner Brothers said this is frivolous, blah, blah, blah. No information about what they're charging. No information about what sort of damages they're seeking. And my guess is that it'll be settled out of court just like the Scarlett Johansson one was.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a slippery slope because, I mean, you have you realize that they're just doing it because they want more. They want to get those numbers. They don't care about COVID.
Yep. As is obviously the case. I mean, they've gone back to mostly theatrical releases. There are still some things that are going to be done day and date, but those are generally geared towards younger audiences. Even though Omicron is still out there and is just tearing its way through the population, they do not care. But yeah, so we'll continue to report on this as things come up. I'm sure it's going to get settled out of court, and that'll be that.
I mean, I've been getting invites to movies that I really want to see in theaters, but I just won't do it. So
same here.
This is. Yeah, like that. It's like why. I know why why studios are going this route, but it's still perplexing nonetheless.
Yep. I will occasionally get a screener, but often it's when I do, it's not for anything that's appropriate for our nerd audience. So
same.
Yep.
Mostly TV shows.
I do get screeners for TV shows, for whatever reason, obviously because they're not going up on the big screen, so there's no need to get people into theaters. So, all right, moving on to our next topic. This right here is Ashley Murray in her role as Josie of Josie and the Pussycats from Riverdale. But the news is that Ashley Murray is joining the cast of the upcoming Nancy Drew spin-off series, Tom Swift, playing a female lead opposite Tian Richards, who's going to be playing Tom Swift. The character is Zenzi Fullerton, Tom's best friend since childhood, who considers him family. And I gotta say, this I think is young people slang I'm not familiar with yet. She's one of the few people who can keep up with Tom and read him for filth when necessary. Is that?
I'm not familiar with that term, but I'm going to guess that it's like call him out on his BS. Maybe?
That's what I'm thinking too. Anybody in any of the comments who might know that, let us. Me, old people anyway, know.
I mean, I'm not exactly a kid myself.
Well, yeah, but there are degrees here. Let's put it that way.
Fair.
So anyway, she also was in the Riverdale spinoff Katie Keene, playing Josie McCoy, but there's no sense that even though this is another CW series, whether she's going to be doing both roles. And I don't know Riverdale well enough to know if Josie is still a character on the show.
Me either.
They may have killed her off. I just no idea. Oh, but
or maybe she's on tour.
Or well, there you go. I don't. Is she actually a performance artist or a performer?
No, I mean the character.
Oh, that could be. They could have Josie on tour. That would make sense. Yeah, so this is definitely a series that's going to happen, but as far as what season it first drops, um, I'm going to guess it's 2023, but we'll see.
It's definitely interesting, like the direction they're going with the series. Like I, uh, I haven't heard much about this until tonight. Like I like first of all that making Tom Swift the titular character a person of color.
Right, and gay
I
and a billionaire. Um,
I await your salt. Just go cry about it to Joe Rogan.
yeah, well, you're not going to get any salt from me. I mean, I was a big Tom Swifty fan back when I was a
Oh yeah,
kid. But I could care less that that he's not a white boy, that he's a billionaire, that he's gay. If it makes a character interesting, sure. You know,
yeah.
Tom Swift was never ever about Tom Swift. It was always about his inventions and his gadgets. So doesn't matter. Um,
Nice.
all right, next CW show. This is, of course, the boys from Supernatural with their dad, John. And the news is that CW has ordered 3 pilots coming up, one of which is The Winchesters, the spin off from Supernatural that looks at John and Mary, Sam and Dean's parents, and how their romance started blossoming and how they became fighters against the forces of supernatural evil that their sons eventually picked up. Um, Now, as you can see, obviously that's Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who did play their dad in many, many seasons of Supernatural. I'm going to guess that he's not coming back in that role because A, he's a lot older now, and B, it's set way before the kids were born, so the actor's going to
Yep.
have to be a lot younger. But there's no word about who this is. Um, Jensen Ackles, which one? I can't remember who plays Sam and who plays Dean. Anyway,
Me
the
either.
shorter hair one there is going to be producing this, just like Jared Palecki is producing Walker, or the sort of reboot of Walker Texas Ranger, which is just called Walker. So that gives both of them something that's being produced, and a Walker spinoff is coming out too, but that's not, that's not nerdy. So
Mm. I've been meaning to check out the Walker series.
I'm sure. Go ahead. Now, I was never a big
Oh,
fan of the original movie, and so I have absolutely no interest.
miniseries.
You know, if you want to see a series about a tough guy, in rural, Amazon Prime just dropped the entire season of Reacher, which is a much more book
Yes.
accurate adaptation of the Jack Reacher novels by Lee Childs.
He
Um,
doesn't have a car.
he doesn't have a car, and he's way taller than 5'5", Tom Cruise. So, but yeah, that stars I can't remember his first name, Atchison, um, who is currently also starring as Hawk in Titans.
And got his start as Arthur Curry in Smallville,
Yes, one of the
which you
worst
come
actors
along.
in a bad acting series.
Yeah, well, you come a long way, baby.
Oh yeah, his
Come a
his
long
work as
way.
Hank as Hawk in Titans is fantastic. And he's really good, although he's required to do a lot less actual emotional acting in Reacher because that's not what the character's about.
Yeah.
But anyway, the other thing that they're doing here that they've given a spin off to is, and we talked about the fact that they were looking at this, Gotham Knights. This is not the video game that's coming up. This is the way it's described: in the wake of Bruce Wayne's murder, his rebellious adopted son forges an unlikely alliance with the children of Batman's enemies when they're all framed for killing him. So they have to clear their name, clean up the streets of Gotham, which is even worse now that the Dark Knight is no longer around, and they become this group called Gotham Knights.
Now, did they say which son?
They did not. Um, Using the term adopted son, I'm assuming it's not Damien, because Damien is actually his biological son.
Also, Damien is not the leader type.
Well, that is absolutely true. So I'm guessing it's Dick, because he's the closest one that would ever be adopted. Although, again, this is obviously outside of normal continuity because he'd never adopted any of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't say who, and it doesn't say who the other children are. Whether we've got like Duella Dent, any of the others that have been introduced in the comic. I'm guessing these are probably new, or mostly new characters, other than
Clown Killer. Clown Killer. Clown Killer.
Clown Killer is whose?
I don't know who she is outside of her alias, but I would love it if they did that with Duella Dent, where it's just like make her have her take on the guise of the Clown Killer just to spite her father.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so just ordered to pilot. So we don't even know for sure that they're going to be series, but fingers crossed that they will be, particularly Gotham Knights and the Winchesters.
I'm here for it.
Moving on. These are the first 4 books in a rather lengthy series called the Riftwar Cycle, written by Raymond E. Feist. First book, Magician Apprentice, came out in the early 80s. And the news is that there is a brand new formed studio called Six Studios that has bought the rights to this and is planning on making a series based on the Riftwar cycles for television. It says for television, but I'm assuming for television or streaming. So the writers involved in this are Hannah Friedman, who was a writer on the upcoming Willow, also on Obi-Wan Kenobi. Jacob Pinion, writer on Fear the Walking Dead, and Nick Bernardoni, that one I do remember from Fear the Walking Dead, and Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, are all going to be writers adapting it.
Wow. That's like 2 different ends of the spectrum right there.
This company, the Six Studios, is founded by 2 people, Jeff Huang and Carl Choi. Huang is out of Taiwan, and has his own studio that just did a Disney Plus in Asia feature called Till We Meet Again, and that's like his only credit. And Choi is from Los Angeles and has a company that does interactive experiences, for marketing experiences for brands. So he's done Marvel Studios, HBO Max, the Smithsonian, Foot Locker, PepsiCo.
Wow.
I'm assuming these are, when I say interactive experiences, they are pop-up type things.
I'm getting X-Arm vibes. I'm sorry.
These are people not currently involved in the production of a television series. That is true, aside from the writers. But they are also people who are obviously very connected with, people within, like Marvel Studios and HBO Max.
All
so,
right.
Who knows? Harry Brady, welcome back to the show. Now, Riftwar is probably one of the last really big fantasy cycles prior to the growth of the young adult stuff, like prior to the start of Harry Potter and then all of the YA stuff that came after that. So somebody's probably going to scarf this up, assuming the ones that are already in the works actually do well, like The Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, like Wheel of Time, and so on.
Which is coming out in September, by the way.
Rings of Power, yes. We talked about that. It'll be out in September. So, yay. And then and a whole bunch of posters dropped for characters, although you don't know who the characters are. You just see them basically from midriff, and they're all holding something that's each of them's apparently pertinent to the character. It might actually be all of the people who are supposed to be getting the rings. So the Dwarf Lords, the 9 Kings of Men, the elf lords and so on. But anyway, that's not this. Just announced that they bought the rights. No idea how they're going to turn this into a television series, where it's going to land, anything like that. It's another one we'll keep on top for you. On top of for you. We will not, in fact, actually physically be on top of it.
Keep our eyes peeled.
Keep our eyes peeled. All right. If you're a super sci-fi nerd, a real, sort of kitsch fan, or my age, or any or all of the above, you know that this is Barbarella. The 1968... I'm sorry?
That name takes me back.
Oh, yeah. The 1968 movie done by the Roger Vadim, starring Jane Fonda, based on the 1962, started in 1962, comic series, French comic series from Jean-Claude Forest. And Columbia Pictures has bought the rights, has optioned the rights to Barbarella from the estate of Forest. And we're going to get to see more movies or maybe a series or something coming from Columbia. And I'm looking forward to this. First off, if the band Duran Duran doesn't actually do the theme song if it's a movie, then I'm going to riot. Because their name comes from a character from the movie.
Nice.
But, it's... one of the other big questions is, Barbarella was racy for the late 60s, but not nearly as racy as the comics. It was one of the first adult comic books put out in France. And, it's still up in the air as to how adult any modern version of this will be. They're certainly not saying anything about it. But I'm hoping for something interesting at least. Hopefully not terrible.
Who can say? They'll probably do something safe, like cast like Megan Fox or something.
Okay, I'm not averse to that. Now,
Do it for me.
Starting in 2017, Dynamite Entertainment has actually been publishing Barbarella comics as well. So I don't know whether or not any of that will be basic or the basis of any of the upcoming products coming out of Columbia. But one of the runs within that was written by Kelly Sue DeConnick. And a lot of her stuff on Captain Marvel is the basis of at least the first Captain Marvel movie. So, it could be some of the Kelly Sue DeConnick stuff. We'll keep you updated as to when any more news about that comes out. Keeping in the science fiction theme, Season 3 of the Orville has been delayed. Yet again, it is called Orville New Horizons, or The Orville New Horizons. So it is technically Season 3, but it's getting a whole new name. It was supposed to start on Hulu, and it's moving from Fox to Hulu. It was supposed to start on Hulu on March 10th, but it's going to be delayed until June 2nd.
Oh, wow.
I was hot and cold on The Orville. I never finished Season 2. The problem is there are times when it wants to be a Seth MacFarlane, Family Guy show. And there are times when it really wants to be OG Star Trek. And when it really wants to be OG Star Trek, it's really good. Really complex issues that they deal in a fairly nuanced way. And then they've got the Family Guy jokes. And it's just too tonally jarring to jump from one to the other. I'm hoping with their new Disney overlords that they're going to go, and the new name New Horizons kind of implies that they're going to go back to a little bit more of the OG Star Trek stuff and, rein in the Family Guy jokes. But they did put out a new teaser to go with it. It's almost all CG stuff. It's, like big, huge space battles. And Luminous, you got me again. Luminous, welcome back to the show. Are you also covering the Babylon 5 reboot news? Is there something new in the last couple of days? Because we talked about the fact that the reboot was happening a couple of weeks ago. So fill me in. But yeah, so June 2nd is when you have to wait to see whether or not it's a little bit different than the last two seasons. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
And also, well, I guess technically it's science fiction. This is the amazing, the wonderful, the absolutely fantastic Bill Nighy. Everything he's in at all just absolutely, turns to gold. He has been cast in the upcoming Showtime series based on The Man Who Fell to Earth. That series stars Chiwetel Ejiofor and Naomi Harris. Ejiofor is going to be playing a new alien from Thomas Newton's homeworld that has come down to finish the work that Newton was supposed to have done. Bill Nighy has been cast as an older, basically David Bowie character, Thomas Jerome Newton from the original Man Who Fell to Earth, in this series. And perfect casting.
Yeah, because Bill Nighy has like that rock star energy to him.
He certainly can.
Yeah, he's played a David Bowie-esque type character in the past, and the movie Love Actually, which that's definitely out of our wheelhouse, but he's capable of that.
Yeah, he's capable of
very.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, he's a larger than life personality in his own right.
He's capable of being a supreme badass. He was the vampire lord in the first Underworld movie. He is
Slarty Bartfast.
He is capable of being a complete fool, Slarty Bartfast, from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. That guy's got range, and I'm looking forward to it. Lumina says JMS reports that the Babylon 5 pilot was not picked up, but it will be considered again next year. I'll look into that. I didn't see that anywhere, but I don't doubt it. I'm sure it's going to be just like when you clued us in on that we had missed the Godzilla news. So thank you. So no, we won't be covering it tonight because I don't have any of the information up in front of me and I don't have time to look it up, but we will pull it into next week's show. All right, folks, we get more Smurfs. Nickelodeon Animation, Paramount Animation have formed a creative partnership to produce multiple Smurfs movies going forward, with the first one already set to begin production this year and a release date of December 2024. And written by, this first one anyway, somebody named Pam Brady, whose CV includes South Park and Team America World Police. I think this is going to be a different Smurfs. It's Nickelodeon, so it's not going to be a different Smurfs. Obviously, this person has range as a writer, but what a weird background to bring into a Smurfs movie.
It'll be the jokes. Hopefully, will be a lot more solid.
Well, yeah, that's true. But yeah, so it's kind of surprising that they just announced this boom, and instantly they have a writer, a production start time, and an actual release date. So obviously this has been worked on for a while in the background.
What do we have for a release date?
December 20th, 2024.
Not bad.
I mean, it's a little ways out. That's, 2 years plus. But if you're a big Smurfs fan, and you can see from the image, let me put the image back up there, they're introducing a new female character. Or maybe in some of the previous stuff, this character already exists. Because I've seen actual images of that blue-haired female Smurf.
Well, they did. I haven't seen the Lost Village, but they did introduce an entire village of female Smurfs.
And that could be why she's wearing a different colored hat and dress as well. As opposed to the white that everybody wears except for Papa Smurf.
Papa Smurf.
You know, I'm assuming the red is to tie into an image of Santa or something. Or maybe it's just to keep the blood of his enemies from showing.
I'm definitely on board for it. I mean, they probably won't get Mandy Patinkin to reprise the role because allegedly he's very difficult to work with.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah. I'd love to see like some fresh voice talent in this new franchise.
And I would assume that's probably going to be the case. I mean, why, it's apparently a whole new deal. Why would you continue using some of the previous people?
Yeah. I mean, there's no replacing Don Message.
As
Papa Smurf.
Okay.
I mean, that never stopped the Scooby-Doo franchise from trying, but no disrespect to Frank Welker. He's a great voice actor.
Let's hope that this is more successful than Scoob. So and moving on, this amazing lineup of people is just part of the cast for the upcoming spin-off Walking Dead series called Tales of the Walking Dead. Anthony Edwards, so from left to right, Anthony Edwards, Parker Posey, Terry Effin Cruz, Poppy Liu, and Jillian Bell. Joining, and directing will be Haifa Al-Mansour, Good Lord Bird and Motherland, Deborah Kempmeyer, Star Trek Picard, Tara Nicole Wire, The Wilds, and Bosch. And then the series producer, Michael Satrazemis, who directed stuff from The Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead, will then direct the rest of the stuff. I am so looking forward to Parker Posey, Anthony Edwards, and Terry Crews just going round at each other. I mean, yes, please.
I never got into The Walking Dead. I tried first season, but it was just too basic of a zombie show for me.
Yeah, I thought they did really well up until about season 4. And then, it kind of went off the rails. So this is says each 1-hour standalone episode of Tales of the Walking Dead will focus on both new and established characters set in the world of the original series. Will premiere this summer.
So it's episodic?
Episodic, yes. It is not serialized. It is not continuous. It is standalone episodes. Set to premiere this summer on AMC and AMC Plus. So this summer. Nice.
Maybe I'll give it a try.
Yeah, I mean, because it'd be sort of like Black Mirror, except very specifically zombie focused. So, yeah, I'm in. I'm on board. All right, this is, as far as I can tell, a single source story, but I'm really looking forward to it. So the image that you're seeing here now is, of course, from one of the J.J. Abrams movies. This is Starfleet Academy in San Francisco. The news is that Paramount Plus is apparently going to be making Star Trek Starfleet Academy with Alex Kurtzman's studio Secret Hideout being the one behind it. Kurtzman is sort of the guy doing all of the Star Trek stuff at Paramount Plus at this point. This is based on sources telling Deadline, but Deadline, again, their sources are really solid. Going back one, Luminous, I love Terry Crews. I'll have to check this out. Hope the writing is good enough to make it watchable. I agree. The backgrounds of the writers seem pretty solid. Although I don't know what specific episodes of any of those things that they wrote. So, but the series is focused on cadets at the Starfleet Academy, and that's as far as they know. But apparently, the co-creator of the series Absentia, Gaia Violo, is looking at taking on the project. And they say it will be pitched to Paramount Plus shortly, and the hope is to get it going in the next year, their sources said. So apparently it hasn't even been fully pitched. So whether or not this will actually happen, who knows?
We shall see.
We shall see, and I hope. All right, Byron, this will wake you up.
Yep.
HBO Max has apparently decided to not do its return of the Boondocks, according to a February 2nd interview with one of the stars, Cedric Yarborough. No reason given, really. And that's it. Just, he said in this interview that it won't be happening. The quote is, "The show is right now not coming back. I don't know if this is breaking news, but we've been wanting to do the show, and Sony, they decided they're going to pull the plug." That sucks.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I like when it was first announced, I was like excited with everyone else, and then everything happening with John Witherspoon's passing, it took the wind out of the sails of a lot of people. And allegedly there is some behind the scenes drama with his son John Jr. Like he did an entire video talking about how the studio basically screwed him out of the part, and how they he didn't name who the actor was that was going to play Grandpa, but he just said there was someone he didn't care for, and that they were using voice altering technology to get him to sound like John Witherspoon.
Sort of like what they did with Mark Hamill in the last episode of Book of Boba Fett. That voice is an AI generated voice. Which, why would you do that? But anyway, so Witherspoon was Grandpa, or
senior? Yes, he was Grandpa.
Okay.
And his son, who he does a spot on impression of his dad.
Okay.
And he's actually a professional voice actor.
Okay. Well, that's too bad. If that is in fact one of the reasons why this happened, that sucks even more. It really sucks to dump on the legacy of somebody who was involved in the original, who was planning to be involved in the follow up here. Regina King, Carl Jones, and John Witherspoon were attached to the reboot. Now, if his passing simply meant that the other two just really no longer had it in them to do it, or other people, I understand that. But if it was in fact, Witherspoon Jr. being sort of kicked to the curb, well, that sucks. And particularly, now let's look at it the other way. If his complaints about it caused the show to be stopped, that sucks even more.
Yes.
So, all of that speculation about that stuff. The only thing we know for sure, based on this interview, is that the series is not happening.
Who did Carl Jones voice in the original series?
Hmm?
Who did Carl Jones voice originally?
I don't know.
He might have just been a producer. I saw he had producer credits.
Yeah. Yeah, it just says originally attached to the reboot. It doesn't say in any particular capacity in here. And unfortunately, I don't know the voice actors of the actual characters from the original. But yeah, It's too bad. It's kind of the show that would be great to have right now because
Yep.
man, was it in your face with really pertinent racial and cultural issues. Um,
I would have loved a Joe Rogan episode. I really would have.
that would have been that would have been good. I don't know if they would have done one, but they probably would have. Um, yeah. Anyway, so that's that's a bummer. Hopefully, some official word will get out, or some other people will get involved and try to bring this back. But it doesn't look like it right now. As this article says, you can still watch the original series on HBO Max, so you might want to go do that.
There's that. Yep, there is that.
All right, our penultimate story, and this trailer dropped today and immediately went up onto the docket. Lightyear, the second trailer, dropped, which is the story of Buzz Lightyear, the person who inspired the toy. And Chris Evans, who voices Buzz Lightyear in this thing, is trying to make that very clear that this isn't about the toy. It's about the human that the Buzz Lightyear toy is based on. Which I find pretty confusing, but that's not going to stop me from geeking out really hard over this trailer. I loved the first trailer. The use of Starman as a needle drop in that first trailer just killed me. And they do the same thing with all new visuals in this trailer. And it looks like the best science fiction space action movie in decades, even though it's a cartoon.
Yeah, I find like there's a lot to like about this trailer. They did the unthinkable. They actually managed to make a Buzz Lightyear that people could take seriously.
Yep. Yeah, he's not some pompous asshole. He is a learning to be confident actual space pilot.
Yeah, and he's also not like overly serious straight man either.
Yes. Yeah. And they did something I thought was impossible. They introduced a cutesy pet character that is really engaging. This robotic.
I'm probably gonna buy one.
Oh yeah, they're gonna sell bazillions of this. I wasn't able to find this. Thank you, Byron, for getting it. The character is voiced by Taika Waititi, and I hope Taika gets at least a small fraction of the millions that they're gonna get from selling plushies and robots of this cat. Particularly if they use. Go ahead.
I'm probably going to pay the $50 to $100 for this robotic toy. So.
Yeah, if they use Taika's voice in it, they're going to have to pay him. So get that bread, Taika.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it, and even if you don't think that it's like, oh, I don't want to watch, Buzz Lightyear of Star Command, that cartoon that was out. This is not that. This is as amazing a bit of animation as, while being a completely different style, as Arcane was. It is as realistic portrayal of science fiction space travel as not The Expanse, because it's a little bit more cartoony than that, but still it's excellent. It looks absolutely fantastic.
They made Zurg threatening, which is something I did not think was possible.
Really threatening. When he calls it in, I'm being stalked by a really massive robot. It's like, yes. And then they cut to the massive robot, and it's like, oh crap, that's
like you see the silhouette. You see like the silhouette punching out of his face, and you're just like, holy crap, that's Zurg.
Yep. It's really good. I'm really, really looking forward to this. I haven't been excited frankly, for a Pixar movie. I love Pixar movies, but I never want to run right out. It's like, I've got to see this.
Yeah.
Like I have for this one. So
here's hoping that this leads to a Woody spinoff movie. in like an old west maybe supernatural style witty western. I would be on board for that.
That would be interesting. I'm not really sure how Tom Hanks's voice could handle that at this point, but Lightyear, June 17th, 2022. So, first off, Omicron, get the hell out. I want to see this in theaters.
Yes.
Um, but the cast includes Pat Fraley, Patrick Warburton, Javier
Wow.
Fernandez Pena, Mike McRae, Corey Burton, um,
Wow.
and they
That's a
also.
l-
Oh, go ahead.
that's a lot of serious voice talent there,
Yep,
especially one of the former Buzz Lightyear voice actors.
Warburton.
Yep.
Um,
Pat Fraley though, wow, that's really cool.
and they say that of course, it's a Pixar movie, so there must be a John Ratzenberger cameo in here somewhere. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Can't wait. Can't wait. All right.
Yeah.
In the maybe I'm looking forward to it category, and this was our our thumbnail topic. That is Dakota Johnson, not from anything related to 50 Shades, thank you. That is from the Bad Night at the El Royale.
Oh yes, I remember that movie.
Which was actually a pretty decent movie. It's a Shane Black movie, and if you like Shane Black movies, it's really a Shane Black movie.
As long as it's not the Predator.
Well, yeah. Yeah, okay, that's a good point. Yeah, they're not all geniuses. The news is that Dakota Johnson is going to be, or is in talks. Again, this is sources coming from Deadline, to star in the Madam Web movie for Sony set in the Spider-Man universe. Which would be interesting because that means they have to take the character in a completely different direction. Madam Web is an elderly woman connected to a spiderweb-like life support system that sort of allows her, because she has psychic powers, to see alternate reality versions of Spider-Man.
I feel like this is was a wasted opportunity to cast Jamie Lee Curtis.
If I would love to have seen, if they had gone with a traditional Madam Web, absolutely. Jamie Lee Curtis. There are so many fantastic, let's call them silver foxes out there, that could do this.
And she's a super nerd, so
that is true. Now this is Sony's version of this, so it will be a Sony-made movie like Venom, Let There Be Carnage, who knows if they'll ever actually release it, Mobius. So there's no word here that MCU is going to be involved at all. So that's a little concerning.
yeah.
The director, yes, S.J. Clarkson, directed a few episodes like Succession, Collateral, and so on, but is most known as the lead director and executive producer on Jessica Jones and the Defenders. So Defenders, Jessica Jones, excellent job.
At least the first season, at least the first 1.5 seasons.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. I know a lot of people really hated the end of the second season. I didn't. I didn't like the middle part. I thought it dragged a lot, but anyway. So who knows whether or not this is actually going to be anything good, whether their take on Madam Web is going to be anything different. Well, it has to be something different, but is going to be good enough to warrant the differences. Again, I don't mind Dakota Johnson being cast at it. I actually think she's a pretty good actress. But it's so different than the way the character is portrayed in the comics. It'll be interesting to see what
Maybe
they do with it.
Story.
Yeah. I guess it could be an origin story, but there's like no need for one. She's not
Yeah,
really a superhero.
no, she's just a like she's essentially a watcher.
Yeah.
She's an outside force who occasionally assists Spider-Man in his endeavors.
So this article is speculating that she could essentially be the Sony Spider-Man universe version of Doctor Strange. If they keep the psychic powers, the ability to connect to alternate reality versions of Spider-Man's, and so on, while casting a younger person who isn't, paraplegic or other. It's not a paraplegic. She has myasthenia gravis. That's it. Lou Gehrig's disease.
Oh,
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see where they go with this. I'm cautiously optimistic. Now, having said that, their track record without the MCU involved is not great. Mobius is apparently so bad that they just keep pushing it back and, aren't going to release it. If it's that bad, just put it on some sort of streamer.
yes. Put it on Netflix or something. Jeez.
Yeah. Venom was dumb fun. Venom, There Will Be Carnage is supposedly dumber and less fun. So, we'll see. The one thing I don't want them to do is basically make Madam Web the equivalent of Spider-Woman. Because that means that they wouldn't have a place for a Spider-Woman, and they really, really should have a Spider-Woman. But anyway, that's it, folks. Byron, do you have a could we please or could we not?
Yeah, I have a could we please. Valentine's Day is coming up this like on Monday, and there are a lot of people. There are a lot of people who are lonely and miserable. Don't dismiss this day. Don't dismiss the. Could we please not dismiss the day just because it is like a Hallmark holiday? There are a lot of people. There are a lot of people who are suffering in silence because of COVID. A few people who have taken their own lives because of the isolation of COVID, and we just check in on these people. Can we please just show a different kind of love on Valentine's Day this year?
Yep. Do it like you did when we were kids, folks. You gave out candy hearts to everybody because they were classmates, and that meant nothing other than you're a classmate, and I want you to know that we thinking of you.
Yes.
Valentine's Day is sure, it's a romantic holiday. It can also be a bromance holiday. It can be a friend's holiday.
Yeah.
Super J,
Love is it.
welcome back to the chat, and thank you very much for the super chat.
Awesome.
Loving seeing it. Thank you. Hope you've enjoyed the show, which we are wrapping up at this very minute. I do not have a could we please. I do have one more teaser, and that is, if you are of a mind, please go check us out at patreon.com/nerdcaliber. That is, of course, our Patreon page. We would love to have you join us as a patron if you are so inclined. If you do, that means we'll just take that money and get more content for you for our YouTube channel, for our website, and so on. Get to more cons, interview more cosplayers, take more pictures, etc., etc. And that's it for the show, folks. Please check us out on Thursday for our full fat spoiler chat for the Book of Boba Fett if you have seen it, or you don't mind spoilers if you haven't seen it. Because it's called Full Fat Spoiler Chat for a reason. No Nerd Caliber next week is going to be, next Monday is going to be our team's favorite nerdy properties that involve circuses. Luminous, I'm digging Rodney's tankard. Cheers. My tankard is, in fact, from Wild Bill's. Well, see, look at that. It looks like space. It's from Wild Bill's Granite State Comic Con 2015, of all things. And the Super J, just don't drink the cheap wine by yourself. On Valentine's Day, I assume you mean, and this is not wine, although it could be. Actually, I have I don't drink wine, so I've got 2 bottles sitting in a wine rack doing nothing. Anyway, that has nothing to do with you. I have 5 bottles of scotch sitting on my scotch shelf, so I just don't drink that much. So, which is kind of too bad because they're really good scotches. So anyway, folks, Scotchy Scotch people, please stay safe out there. Oh, the reason why we're doing a circus-focused No Nerd Caliber is that next Thursday, not this coming one, we will, of course, be doing full fat spoiler chat on Nightmare Alley, the Guillermo del Toro movie. So, we'll see you at one of those upcoming shows. Stay safe. When's our next... well, we can wish you a happy Valentine's Day on Monday's No Nerd Caliber, because it's coming up like that. If you're watching the big game... good luck to whether you have whichever team you're rooting for. If you have a dog in that hunt, I don't. So I'll be eating snacks and drinking beer and not really caring who wins. Hoping for a good game. So we'll see you in an upcoming show. Stay safe. Wear that mask. Get those vaccinations. Bye-bye.
Bye.